that the main demographic issue moving on and for the near future will be aging and demographic decline rather than the population bomb. The fact that we are going to grow up to 9 billion, it's better than 10 billion, is not enough to say that we will avoid environmental and climate issues. We still have all these issues.
So what are the specific impacts of global population peaks on early arrivals, whether they are rather positive or negative?
The thing is that today we are 8 billion people on the planet, and given the amount of people on the planet and our way to produce and to consume, sadly, the amount of population is unsustainable in the sense that we are already breaching some key planetary boundaries, some key variables that our planetary ecosystems rely upon. So we are already too many in a way. Not because there is anything wrong with being many on the planet, but because of our lifestyles, essentially, and our way of producing and consuming, which is currently unsustainable. So the fact that we are going to grow up to 9 billion, it's better than 10 billion, let's say, but it's still too much in a way. And so the fact that is not enough to say that we will avoid environmental and climate issues. We still have all these issues despite this our peak. So in a sense, it is good that we are going to be less of us because there will be less pressure on the ecosystem. So that's the good side. Focus of the study, of course, is on the global demographic trajectories, right? We say that as a result of these trajectories, we expect that the main demographic issue moving on and for the near future will be aging and demographic decline rather than the population bomb. So which policies should be taken, that's up to each specific country, because each country will face a different situation. For some countries that are already been aging for a while, right? Definitely policies saying that the balancing the fertility rate would be best. In fact, many countries today are trying to push for pro-fertility policies, so trying to stimulate more births, higher population growth rates. So it's not very effective. So we see that it is easier in a way to lower population growth through policy rather than to increase it.
So what are the reasons behind this regional imbalance? And when it comes to population issues, what is the most pressing issue facing humanity?
This imbalance is due to the imbalance in socioeconomic development that we still have across the globe, and so very different socioeconomic structures as well. So if South Korea was still as poor as the peninsula was in the 60s, for example, when South Korea was comparable to sub-Saharan Africa in terms of income per capita, we would probably see similar developments. The main difference there is that in the meantime, South Korea managed to massively increase their income per capita of the citizens. And this has created, of course, a number of challenges from a fertility perspective. So what we can say is that in the future, as also African countries increase the pace of their development, as we expect, we will see a less of a divide, because we are seeing that the African countries are rapidly, especially those that are developing quite quickly, are rapidly coming to a demographic regime that is quite similar to those that have been reached by the most developed countries across the world. Although we are not there yet, probably in a few decades, the demographic regimes will look much more similar across the globe. So some of these big differences will be eliminated. Of course, problems will exist, and the challenges already will be to see if these countries with very low fertility rates will be able to find some policies that actually support the situation. And here we have two options. Either you go against the grain, right? Let's say. So you find policies that are able to restore some fertility. But so far, this has not really happened, except in a few countries and with moderate results. Or it will be mostly a matter of living with the aging. So probably it will be a mix, a policy mix. So there will be some attempt to restore fertility, but most of the effort will probably go to support the elderly population, and also to find ways through which the elders can support the society as well.
So why is the prediction result different from the data previously provided by the United Nations?
Well, the main reason here is that we use a different method. Essentially, the United Nations have a demographic model that extrapolate current trends into the future. We instead have built a system dynamics model integrating socioeconomic development, demographic development, and biophysical development. All of them at the same time on a global scale, creating forecasts that go till the end of the century. So essentially, we can take into account the complex feedbacks existing between these different sectors, these different trajectories, and therefore we can come out with a different result. Essentially, we believe that some of the same mechanisms that are also described by the United Nations will have a stronger effect, and our models support this. However, it's also important to acknowledge that the United Nations present a variety of scenarios, right? So in their main scenario, the numbers are quite different. But there is also a low population scenario that is also supported by the United Nations, whose numbers are quite similar to ours as well. So while we find that this is more likely compared to the United Nations, the difference between the two projections is not so large.
知道视频，有趣有料的新闻短视频。